Quisi, the forbidden warrior. The sun hung low over the hills of Ikchi, spilling molten gold across the red earth. Dust swirled gently around the bare feet of children chasing goats through the narrow paths that wound between the thatched huts. Palm trees leaned lazily in the wind, their leaves whispering secrets of ancient days. It was a village caught between peace and fear, for rumors of war had begun to crawl through its borders like hungry spirits. Among the huts at the farthest end of the settlement stood one that people called the House of Silence. Its walls were cracked, its roof patched with palm leaves, and its occupants avoided by nearly everyone. That was where Quisi lived, the only child of Obina, the failed blacksmith, and MMA, a woman said to have angered the gods long ago. They were poor not only in coin but in reputation. The villagers spat on the ground when they passed. Children were told not to play near their hut, as if shame were contagious. Quisi grew up hardened by this rejection. Every day she rose before the sun, fetched water from the distant stream, gathered firewood, and hunted for roots to fill their cooking pot. But what burned inside her wasn't despair, it was defiance. She would stare at the young warriors training by the square, the way their spears cut through the air, and whisper to herself, "One day, they will know my name." That day came sooner than she imagined. One evening, the town crier's drum shattered the calm. "Come! Come! Come!" His voice boomed through the streets. "The king has spoken. The Vikings have raided our neighboring lands. The stronger sons and daughters of Ikchi must prepare for war. Those who fight and return victorious shall receive the king's highest honor, and the reward of gold and title." The air thickened with excitement and fear. The young men puffed their chests, the maidens whispered among themselves. But for the poor, like Quisi, it was a cruel reminder. Tradition forbade them from even dreaming of such glory. No one from her family could fight for the village. No one from her bloodline had ever been allowed to stand beside the warriors. It was the rule: the poor were cursed to serve, never to defend. But Quisi was not one to bow to rules written by those who despised her. That night, under the pale moonlight, she cut her long black hair with a piece of sharpened stone. She tied it back, smeared ash across her face, and wrapped her chest in rough leather. From her father's broken forge, she took a wooden spearhead he had carved long ago, unfinished, splintered, but still sharp. She bound it to a stick and whispered to it as though it were alive. "You are my truth, and I am your strength." Then she gave herself a new name, Nwani Odigu, the woman of valor. But among the warriors who gathered at dawn, they called her Quisi the Brave, not knowing who she truly was. At the king's compound, the warriors lined up, tall men, fierce women, their bodies gleaming with oil and sweat. Drums thundered as the chief warrior, Dike, inspected them. His gaze stopped on Quisi. She stood at the far end, her brown leather clothing stitched crudely, fur draped over one shoulder, coral and wooden beads clinking against her neck. Her feet were bare, but her stance was steady, unyielding. "You," Dike said, narrowing his eyes. "Where do you come from?" Quisi bowed slightly, her voice calm but firm. "From a place that has nothing left to lose." Dike stared at her for a long moment before grunting. "Then fight as if that's true." The training was brutal. Warriors sparred until their skin bled, until their arms trembled like dry leaves. Quisi endured every blow without a sound. When others rested, she trained in the dark, striking her spear into the earth again and again. Her determination spread through the camp like wildfire. Some mocked her, others feared her. But none could ignore her. When the day of battle arrived, the sky turned a strange color, half red, half gold. The air smelled of rain and blood. The Vikings came from the east, their ships sliding across the river like black spirits. They were giants in iron, shouting in tongues no one understood. The warriors of Ikchi met them on the red plains beyond the forest. Spears clashed, shields rang, and arrows filled the sky. Quisi fought like one possessed, her spear danced in her hands, moving faster than thought. She struck, ducked, roared, and rose again, her bare feet pounding the ground in rhythm with her heart. Her white tribal marks glowed under the sunlight, and her cries pierced through the chaos like thunder. When Dyke fell to an axe blow, it was Quisi who dragged him to safety. When the enemy's leader raised his sword over the fallen king's son, it was Quisi who hurled her spear straight through his chest. The Vikings broke, retreating in confusion, their dead littering the ground. By dusk, the battle was over. The survivors limped home, carrying the wounded. The people of Ikchi waited anxiously by the gates. When they saw Quisi walking at the front, her spear stained, her shield cracked, her face streaked with sweat and blood, they fell silent. She was no longer the poor girl they had mocked. She was something else now, a symbol of what courage truly meant. The king himself came forward. "What is your name, warrior?" Quisi bowed, her voice steady. "I am Quisi, daughter of Obina and MMA of the Silent House." A murmur ran through the crowd, shock, disbelief, shame. The king stared at her, then lifted his staff. "Then let all know this day," he said, "that bravery has no lineage. The gods favor not the wealthy, but the willing. From this day, Quisi shall be known as Nwani Odegu, the princess of valor, the #1 warrior of Ikchi." The crowd erupted. Those who had despised her now knelt before her. Tears rolled down her mother's face as she pushed through the throng, falling at her daughter's feet. "My child," she whispered, "you have broken the curse." Quisi looked up at the burning horizon, the red earth beneath her feet, and the palm trees swaying in the warm evening wind. She felt the world shift, as if the very soil that had rejected her now rose to carry her name. Years later, songs would be sung of Quisi the brave, the girl who was forbidden to fight but saved her people nonetheless. Children would paint her image on the village walls, standing tall on red earth, spear in one hand, bronze shield in the other, coral beads glistening around her neck, her white tribal marks glowing in the sunlight. In those paintings, her eyes always held the same look, not pride, not vengeance, but truth. The truth that strength does not come from birth, but from will. The truth that courage belongs to anyone willing to rise when the world says stay down. And in the wind that whispered through the palm trees of Ikchi, her name still lived. Quisi. The woman who turned shame into glory. Thank you for listening. Please keep up sharing, comments and share. Follow Learn English Skills. Enjoy more interesting stories forthcoming.